watch The Meg. Have you seen The Meg yet? With Jason Statham?
No.
No? Do you like Jason Statham?
Kinda.
It's funny. It's funny.
Oh, okay.
Funny.
I think we're live.
Are we live?
All right. Lisa's giving us the...
I want to talk about Jason Statham more.
Yeah, and The Meg?
Yeah, and The Meg. Yeah, it was funny. I liked it. I watched it
Talking about that because it's Shark Month.
It's Shark Month.
Shark Month. So, thank you for joining live at Epiphan. It's Thursday at 3 o'clock, as always. I'm here, myself, George.
Cameron. Good to see everyone back again.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about some interesting stuff today. Building a live stream audience. And this is a big question that comes up all the time with anyone who's playing in the online space, live streaming, even posting VOD content. Biggest question is, how do you become YouTube famous? Right?
Yeah, how do you do it?
So we want to go over some of that stuff.
Since we're experts on the subject, we should share that information with everybody.
We'll share some of what we've learned and some other ideas. Of course, we're monitoring chat, so throw your questions, your comments, and all those things into chat, and we'll take a look at those. But first, maybe kind of plays into this whole theme. We'll talk about a little bit of streaming news, I suppose, but it segues well into what we're talking about in the sense that one of the biggest things you can do is keep up on new features.
Yeah, there's always something new.
Yeah.
Every time we go into Facebook, they've changed a feature, they've updated something. You go into beta mode, to go out of beta mode again.
If you're on YouTube, yes.
Exactly.
You know,
but what's
new
new on Facebook and YouTube right now that can help you engage with your audience?
Yeah, so they're experimenting with a premiere feature. So in the sense of YouTube, if you're posting VOD content, you can sort of pre-post it with this premiere idea so that you can pre-notify your subscribers and they can kind of join a pre-show.
Does it have to be recorded or can it be live content?
Right now it's only recorded content.
Okay.
Hopefully they'll figure out some way of doing it with live. But right now it's sort of a pre-release of your recorded content with a scheduled time and letting people know ahead of time that the content's coming. And on top of that, the chat part of the video goes live during that window of premiere time.
Yeah, you're saying this beforehand so you can engage with your audience a little bit ahead of time.
Exactly.
Get everyone stoked up about what you're doing.
Yeah, and as the creator, you can maybe do some Q&A beforehand, say hi to everyone, and then your VOD content goes live, they consume it, and post their comments afterwards. So
I'd like to see how that works and if it lives, because how is that going to live later so that you can look back at that chat later?
I'm not sure.
That chat later, pardon me?
Yeah.
If you'll have like the pre-roll for a few minutes, you'll see this live chat, forever, or if it just cuts the live chat.
I'm not sure how exactly they're playing with it yet. It's a brand new feature, and so there's some stuff there. Facebook's trying something similar, but again, these are features that are there to try and help you, I guess, pre-engage, and you'll find a common theme through all the things we're going to talk about is engagement is pretty critical when it comes to building an audience.
Totally. Well, let's get to one more thing before we get started. So aside from being Shark Month, it's also Movember.
It is.
So in Canada, there's a lot. Oh, wait, there we go.
Wait,
gotta
try and figure out my.
Yeah, I gotta do the opposite. I like that actually.
November,
Can we tweak it a little
try
bit?
and grow one of those for real.
So we're raising awareness for prostate health in Canada. And actually, sorry, Lisa, if you can pop that back up. One of our Epiphan staff members here, Josh, he's on Movember. So if you'd like to donate, if you want to check it out, please check out Josh's profile on there.
Back in there, yeah, that's true. There we go. Oh yeah, pretty close. Yeah, so that's great. And please check that out. I guess another piece of news from another platform that we don't commonly talk about here because we don't focus a lot on gaming content on this show, but Twitch, they had TwitchCon a couple weeks ago, which is their big annual conference for all things Twitch, and they released a bunch of new features that are coming to their platform, including multi-creator streams, so they can have up to 4 creators geographically distributed, all feeding into a single event stream.
And they're all talking to each other on there?
They can be. There's parallel technologies to do that, but as a viewer, you can view one place and get the 4 different perspectives and kind of move between them. So that's launching early in the new year from what I read.
That sounds like when I was a kid and all my friends were playing GoldenEye.
Get the 4-way
and I never
split,
got a turn, and I just had to watch this massively confusing 4 screen with people playing the same game.
So it's interesting to see these platforms trying these new ways, trying to add collaboration tools and other pieces like that to help grow the audiences of maybe larger channels collaborating with smaller channels and everyone else to kind of bring that all together. So that's a big piece.
I'll go have to test that one out.
Yeah, we'll play with it
Yeah,
once
get some
they release it.
consoles and-
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, you can do it from anything, so it's easy. But yeah, we can definitely play with that, and maybe we'll experiment with that sometime on this show. We'll set up a talk show thing on Twitch and play
totally,
with it that way.
Totally, and that takes us to our first point.
Yeah.
So one of our first tips for, helping to build your audience is consistently creating great content. Now, does it have to be great?
I'm not so sure it has to be great. I think consistent is the more important part. Great hopefully comes with time as you learn.
Totally.
and
Or you
grow.
get lucky every once in a while, right?
Yeah, but consistency is key.
Yeah.
So, for example, this show, we are every week at Thursday at 3 o'clock Eastern, we are here live. That's important because your audience wants to know when and where to consume the content. And just like of watching TV shows of old,
Totally.
it's always on at a certain time and a certain day, and that consistency is what retains your audience. Audience retention is major, and making sure you're consistent is
And
big.
I missed that too, right? When you you wanted to watch a show, you had to get ready, and if
Yeah.
you missed the intro, then
Binge
you're out
watching
the
has
first.
kind of ruined
Yeah,
that.
it kind of
but,
ruined it, right?
you know, when it comes to live streaming, you still can't binge watch live streaming. So, if you want to be actively engaged.
Unless you're on
there's
Twitch and you're
definitely
watching like 8 hours of
well,
World
exactly,
of Warcraft.
Exactly. So the other thing, we created this wonderful list. This looks like it's not a lot because it's one sheet. The font's really small. It's actually a lot of things on here to try
That's like 8
look at.
point on there.
But when we're talking about consistency, does it have to be great? No, not right away. It has to be consistent. But it also still has to be interesting.
Totally.
And that's part of it. So even if your production quality isn't, super high end at first, at least providing entertaining and consistent content is the great start. As your audience builds, hopefully you start bringing in some monetization revenue, and that you can funnel right back into your production and make it better and better and grow.
And it's compelling too, right? Like
Yeah.
the viewer doesn't know what's going to happen next.
Exactly.
They can't fast forward. You can't skip ahead. So it's kind of like watching the news.
Yeah, exactly.
Just waiting for someone to jump out of the background. We should have. Had
Well, I'm
someone
looking
come
at
out
the
and
chat
surprise
here, and I
us.
was just seeing that George II seems to have noticed my shirt.
Hey.
I'm wondering. Motorworks Brewery is a microbrewery in Bradenton, Florida, just outside Tampa. Where
How much are they paying you to feature that on the show today?
Zero. They just have
Zero?
delicious beer that's kind of named after motorcycles and cars, so it's perfect
It's
for
right
me.
up your alley.
Yeah. Anyway, point number 2, and this is probably the big, and we need the big bucket to do
We've got the
this.
buzz bucket.
Yeah. So for this one, we had so many items that we put under this category
Yeah.
that we had to throw them in the bucket.
Not
and
just because we couldn't memorize them all, but
I
it's
can't.
kind of a fun thing. So you
We'll
take
pick 'em.
take
We'll
the
pick 'em.
honors.
All right.
Pull the first one out.
I'm going to read it. You're going to talk about it.
Ugh. Was that the deal?
It is now. Create an eye-catching thumbnail
Hey!
with details of your event.
I'm actually ready for that one. So our lovely producer Lisa every week will make our thumbnail for us. Now,
Yes.
Lisa, hold on a sec before you go over. I should have had that.
Fine, you should have
Should have had that ready to go.
But I'll carry on with that, saying thumbnails are important, but not if they're clickbait.
Yeah, exactly. And we were talking about that in our pre-meeting, how frustrating it is when you see something that's on the thumbnail, but it's not actually
Right.
featured in the video.
Exactly.
So Lisa, if you take us to the laptop channel, I'll give you an example. So every week, Lisa makes these wonderful graphics for us, and she's able to take just a little bit of a title and actually come up with the appropriate background. Sometimes we take a photo, sometimes we use a
Exactly.
stock or some
Sometimes
graphics
it's
that Lisa
were
makes.
our pictures in there.
Yeah,
Sometimes
exactly.
It's or the one from Switchboard, we had their logo and their headshot.
Yeah, we've got our buddy Rudy on here.
Exactly.
And
So
his
it brings in
smiling press
a
photo face on
Yeah.
there.
Well, it helps, right? Because people get a little bit of what to expect. We had
Exactly.
fun with last week's episode with George and I talking about the fail stuff. We took that shot and had some fun with the thumbnail.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, it's engaging. A lot of people tend to go to clickbaity ones. I don't recommend that.
I do it every time. Every time.
Technically, in some ways, if the thumbnail is not relevant or it doesn't exist somewhere in the content, it technically is a violation of YouTube terms of service. So you're not supposed to put super clickbaity things in there.
Should I be reporting these to YouTube?
Yeah, maybe. No, people get away with it all the time. But again, you want to make sure that people aren't clicking for something, finding out it's not in there,
Yeah.
and then they get mad. So
Yeah, that one freeze frame that wasn't actually in the
exactly,
video.
grab one of those.
All right. let people know when and where they can watch your live stream.
Yeah, and I think this comes from the consistency, right? Where you want to promote it. You
Yeah.
want to promote it all the time. So as many social networks as you can use, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram,
Twitter.
I don't even know what the kids are using these days, but any of those places where you can promote it, cross promote it,
Yeah.
and really bring it up.
When we talk about cross-promoting, so that's where you have it on YouTube and then you're promoting to Facebook or vice versa. So
Exactly.
I'm promoting YouTube on Facebook.
Yeah, and I mean, even if you're going to be live on both platforms at the same time, which we do, but we also still post the YouTube link as
Yeah.
a general share on
YouTube.
Facebook and make sure that that's crossing over. Yeah. So, that's important. But again, driving home when and where and how so that people can jump in there.
Totally.
That-
And we
that can be a
also
big thing.
will create a blog post as well.
Yes, so we
Yeah.
create a blog post. An embedded goes live on our website. There's a bunch of places where we drive it. We encourage our partners to share it. We encourage our staff on their personal social media accounts to share, so that there's a whole bunch of algorithms around social networks. Of course, if
Exactly.
you can share it once and someone else shares that, maybe that eventually filters out to however many hundred, right?
Well, and they've got to know it too, right? Because you've
yeah.
listed your employment on Facebook somewhere. You work
Some do,
at
yeah.
Epiphan. Yeah, some do.
Some do,
Some
some
are
don't.
off the grid.
Yeah.
But they must tune in and know that if it's disingenuous, right? If the company's
Exactly.
just getting everybody to share it versus like
Yeah,
once
you
one of
do
their
still
friends
want it
shares
to be genuine for
Yeah.
sure. So yeah, but definitely making sure you blast it out there as much as possible. I mean, I don't think leading up to the event, share it every day. Maybe every other day or whatever it might be. We do a couple precursors. We send out emails to our newsletter list
Yeah.
to let people know ahead of time as well. So, all right, I'm going to grab another one of these. Ooh, a handwritten one.
There was no handwritten ones. They were all typed.
Where's the lighter? I got to burn this one.
No, read it out loud.
Be handsome like George Herbert.
That said Birchall.
I don't think so.
I think someone snuck into our bin.
Yeah, all right, grab a real
I'll
one.
grab a real one. He said he couldn't be on the show, and so far
live
he's been
content.
on here twice today.
Yeah, he shouldn't get hit in the face with soccer balls as much. Then it wouldn't be a problem.
A link from your website and partner websites. So we kind of touched
so we
on
just
this
mentioned
one.
that. Yeah, and so some of our partners actually put links to our live show on their content pages. So our good example of this would be our Canadian distributor, Data Visual. They have a link on their website as part of their events, training, and webinars sort of posts where they have specific ones for some of their brands they carry, and then they have one that have specific dates and times,
Yeah.
and then there's ours. It's weekly, it's live, and it's there all the time.
And you may not be able to read it for our viewers at home. It says a weekly live show covering topics related to live streaming, video technology, video production, and best practices for content creators. So and that's a great bump for
Yeah,
us,
I
because
just-
anyone that's on the page will see that.
Exactly, and I just hope we live up to it. All right, let me grab another one of these.
All right.
There's a few more in here. Promote on social media, including tags. So
Yeah.
that's a big one. So we talked about promoting on social media.
So what is a tag on a video, and where does that come into play?
Again, tags, they can be a lot of things. So YouTube has their tagging system, right? So, and that can go crazy deep, right? It's that.
When you can tag anything, it doesn't have to
Exactly,
be
it doesn't
in
have to
their
be
system.
relevant, but it's
not-
supposed to be relevant.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's an art form to that. There's an SEO. There's a whole YouTube algorithm art.
So I
to
should
that.
put royal wedding in the video tag
Hey,
somewhere.
I mean, sure.
Yeah, Johnny Depp,
yeah.
royal wedding.
Yeah, who knows? Just throw whatever in there. And some people do that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Just to try and get the clicks. Again, that's clickbait. You don't
Yeah.
really want to necessarily do that unless that's your game. But
That's SEO fraud.
yeah, but making sure that it does carry relevant tags. So if you're doing a show about video production, put video production in the tag.
Totally.
If you're talking about a particular product, like when we were interviewing Rudy from Switchboard, put Switchboard in the tag.
Absolutely.
That stuff's important to
And
make
we
sure.
look back to see how those tags performed.
Exactly.
And I mean, Victor down in California, he loves SEO. He just breathes
Yeah,
it.
that's
and
his
he
life.
can go in and see which actually performed well, and then
Exactly.
he coaches us on where to go. And Jordan as well.
Exactly.
Just give us a long list of tags to
We
focus on.
look at those analytics, even our newsletter emails. We look at the open rates and see
Yeah,
dates
totally.
and times of what worked, what didn't. Tweak it over time to improve that and hopefully build it up. So
Absolutely.
grab
All right.
another one.
I only got a few more in here.
All right.
Now, this is something we only do once in a while. I'll read it out loud, sorry.
Yeah.
Tag influencers and others who might be interested.
So again, tagging, but you're talking about if we're, again, particular subject matter, maybe there's a particular content creator or influencer out there that you want to try and get their attention because they might be interested. You know, maybe that's a little more of a Twittery thing where you might tag them in that or at them and just so that they can maybe see it.
Totally.
You know, that stuff kind of works as well.
Well, we have a show that I'd like to do coming up where we talk about differences between a prime lens and a zoom lens.
Right.
And that was actually a comment that we had on one of our videos.
Okay.
So that'd be great to actually tag that user in our post.
Exactly.
And that way they can see that we're addressing that question
Absolutely.
and get to it.
Yeah. I'm taking the short one, sucker. This is a big one. Know your social media handle. So what is that about?
At Epiphan.
Well, it's exactly that, right?
What is it?
It's, you know, I've seen it a number of times with interview shows. You know, one I love to watch is Hot Ones. They're eating hot wings.
Oh, and
all
they're
this celebrity
melting their
stuff.
faces
It's
off.
a great show.
Yeah,
It's a great piece of content.
It can be
Very,
hard
very
to
well
watch.
done.
Yeah, hard to watch sometimes when they're
But
just dying. Yeah.
I love it because I also love hot sauce. But sometimes you see some of the guests on shows like that. At the very end of the show, they say, okay, where can people find you? And they put them on the spot, right?
Yeah.
And depending, sometimes these are big celebrities who do not manage their own social media. They have handlers who do that for them.
Yeah, they don't know what their Twitter handle
and they're
actually
put on the spot. They're
is.
like, I don't know.
At me.
But that's key. If you are the content creator and you're throwing that out there to try and get the likes, subscribes, and follows, which is probably the last one in this bucket, let's be honest, or you're being interviewed for something, memorize that, have it ready to go, and shoot it off so that you can get it out quick and you can get it accurate. Because the last thing you want to do is send someone to the wrong social media account.
Absolutely.
That could be a terrible disaster. So.
Well, and if you're trying to genuinely engage with people, you want them to know that you actually know what your handle is, right?
Exactly.
All right. And actually, I'm going to jump ahead to another one.
Sure.
Just about engagement. If you like hot sauce, comment below about what kind of hot sauce you like, and George will eat it on an upcoming show.
Sure, I got the hottest hot sauce in the world at home.
All right, cross-post on social media, YouTube, on Facebook, and vice versa.
So we covered that already.
This is kind of a duplicate.
We covered that one already. But yes, cross-posting as much as possible because your audience isn't always in one place, right? You might need to put it in a few places.
Yeah.
So when we started this show, I think our largest audience was on Facebook.
Okay.
And now it's predominantly YouTube.
Just shifted over.
Shifted. Part of that happened because we did one show, the first time we did 4K on YouTube as an experiment. We, of course, said on Facebook, if you actually want to see it in 4K, you're going to have to go over to YouTube.
Yeah.
They kind of shifted the audience, and they kind of retained on YouTube. Well, that's fine. It doesn't mean we should stop doing Facebook just because we have a smaller audience there now. That's more likely to be the one where people accidentally discover us, and it's easier to share.
Yeah.
So we still should do both, even if our viewer numbers on Facebook Live might be smaller than YouTube. Still do it in both places just because it gives you a broader reach overall. So that can be important.
Well, I find Facebook is a little bit more socially satisfying when it comes to interaction.
Well, because it
And
is actually a
YouTube-
social network.
Yeah, it
YouTube
is actually
not
a
a
social
social
network,
network. They're trying to pretend it is, but it really isn't.
Totally. And like, I just don't have that same kind of engagement.
Exactly.
And a lot of creators, one of their rules is that they're not going to look at the comments on YouTube.
They can get dicey.
Right? So yeah, because it can get a little bit nasty on there.
Yeah, I never read the comments. No, that's not true. I'm watching them right now. Put in your question in the
Yeah,
comments.
exactly. And that gets us to our next one: interacting with viewers.
Yeah, so we're
Read
going to go from the
comments.
list now. Interacting with viewers. I'm going to read out the first one here. Once your live stream is up and running, interact with the audience. So I can see that Faithfulness is here saying, great tips so far. I always forget to post to Twitter. Yeah, so do I. I don't really use Twitter. I mean, I have it. I don't use it. Kind of like LinkedIn. But yes, exactly, is that making sure we're paying attention to those questions, making sure we're bringing that stuff in.
Totally.
And engaging with our viewers is important, especially on a show like this where we're talking about subjects that are likely going to generate questions. You want to make sure you address those questions.
One of he's a content creator here in Ontario, Brittle Star.
Yep.
And him and his wife do a live show, I think every other day it's Tuesdays and Thursdays or Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. But he does a live show during the week, and he starts out with a roll call. So as folks are coming on to Facebook, he does a roll call, and everyone says hello, and then they actually say hello back to everybody.
Yeah,
and it's a huge bump in there.
There can be value to that. I think you should limit yourself to how long you spend on that, because you can burn a lot of time doing that in some cases. But yes, that can be a valuable tool. Yes, I see that Faithfulness is just saying, try the last dab from Hot Ones. I have it at home. I try it all the time. It's great. I love it. So next one there is ask for the questions, respond to them in real time, like we just did. Great example.
You're just knocking these
Roll
off.
call. Instruct your viewers to send likes, hearts, questions, comments to other people.
Yeah.
So again, encouraging your audience to share and share alike.
Well, not just we're interacting, but they're interacting with each other.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that we often get that on this show, where our viewers are interacting with each other, answering the questions before I can even answer them sometimes. And that can be great.
Well, we had an instance last week, I think it was, where there was a viewer that had a question, and we were actually able to direct them to the live chats and get one of our customer support guys to actually help them out.
So another one in here is encouraging your audience to spread the word on social media. So again, we miss this one ourselves quite a lot, and that's our bad. And it's something that we try to remind ourselves to do.
Let's do it right now.
But yes, if you know someone who might find value in what we do here live at Epiphan, share it, tag them.
Right now.
All these things.
Right now.
And maybe that will help them grow their channel. Maybe you're not the creator, but your friend is.
Totally.
And hopefully there's some content in our past. This is episode 85?
85.
So our previous 84 episode, 86? Oh, geez, our previous 85 episodes. There's tons of content there now that, hopefully there's something of value for somebody that you can do with.
And on top of that, not just encouraging folks to share, but we could also remind folks that have just joined us. So if you're just tuning into the live chat now, we're talking about how to build an audience for your live stream.
You might even bring up the title again. Right, Lise? We're having a little bit of fun today.
There we go. And again, it's also Shark Month. Sorry, I almost got poked in the face.
Reminding people of what you're talking about. So this is an old school style. On the radio, it's actually legally required.
It's legally required,
to bring it up.
It's like
periodic.
However legally binding federal broadcast laws are.
Luckily, live streaming doesn't have that, but it's still a good idea in case someone joins midstream. You're like, what are they talking about? To remind them.
Well, that old rule of threes was that you tell someone what you're going to tell them, you tell them, and then you tell them what you told them.
Yeah.
Right?
So we have a pretty good flow here for how we handle questions and comments, but sometimes there's things you don't want to read out, you don't want to bring up on stream, and you might need someone else in the background moderating.
Totally. And we're very fortunate. Again, we have Lisa here.
Yeah, but we have other staff too, sitting at their desks, doing their normal day-to-day work, who are watching the show right now, who are also playing moderator. Totally. So if a troll happened to pop up in the chat right now, we have those staff to delete those comments, to ban that user if necessary, and so on and so on. It rarely happens with us, which is great, but you never know. And depending on the type of content you do, there could be a big risk to that. Absolutely. And you want to make sure that you keep a handle on that.
Well, and for news broadcasts, especially CBC, when I watch the national live on Facebook, it's just a non-stop stream of icons and comments, and
it's nonsense.
It can be very overwhelming. Or if you've played that the online game show, right? Like that one is just insane. You can't keep up with the comments on there.
Whereas if you look at some of the kind of core veteran, almost starters of the modern podcast era, guys like Joe Rogan, their live streams have no comments enabled because he knows how bad it will be. Yeah. And so he just turns it off entirely. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. If you're doing a 3-hour podcast and you're going to have 50,000 people trolling you, it might be better to just not have it on at all.
Well, and if you can't keep up with that engagement, then it's detrimental to the viewership because you're not addressing anything at all. Right. So why even bother?
And that type of content is not intended for audience interaction. So
it's a one-way conversation.
So another good one in here is collaborating with other content creators. So we try to do this. Whether it was Switchboard, we're talking to, actually this is a good time to bring that up. Next week's show, we're going to be talking to the guys at Stream Shark. We're going to have them on the show, and talk about their platforms.
And Streamshark is in Australia,
Yeah,
so that's
it's
no
gonna be a
small
trick-
feat. They're going to
tricky
be staying up until 2 o'clock in the morning so they
Yeah,
can chat with us
we're gonna
during
make it
our
work.
regular live window.
Yeah, and which is great. We really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
We also offered them to give us a recorded package, but they wanted to do it live
Yeah.
because they know the interaction is important. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can't shift our time because
No.
that goes against the first rule, right? We want to stay consistent and always have that same time that we're broadcasting.
Exactly. But the other thing collaboration can do is help merge audiences, right? This is very common within the gaming content community on Twitch, where you just decide one day you're going to play with maybe a smaller creator. Maybe you're the smaller creator who gets to play with the bigger creator. That can very quickly increase your reach and your audience tenfold.
And you were
So
explaining
that's
that when someone's watching on Twitch or if they're playing on Twitch and they're kind of winding down, they
Yeah.
can transfer those viewers
Exactly,
over?
exactly. And that's, again, Twitch has built the platform in order to do collaboration, and tools are built in there. So if
Cool.
you're about to go offline and you can go around and randomly, what they call a raid, you can bring your viewers to raid that other content creator and bring all of your viewers with you and dump them on someone else. And that can be a very powerful collaboration tool for that platform. So that can always be a great thing. I don't know if we'll ever see that with other platforms. They're not really geared for that. But that's something
Yeah.
that Twitch has. It's
I don't know if,
fairly
if Facebook
unique.
wants you to take all their take all your viewers over to another platform, but if you were to go from like one live stream on
Right.
the same platform,
No,
to do
exactly.
it, yeah, that would
exactly.
be pretty cool.
So what's that last one? That one's a big one.
Repurposing your videos.
Yeah.
So that's something we do every single week. So after the live stream, this video will live as a VOD. It's going to sit, or sorry, a video on demand, and it's going to sit on a blog post.
Yep.
And we often also take little bits of those videos and repurpose
Chop them
them.
up.
Yeah, chop them up. We'll redo it. There was an instance maybe a few weeks ago. A couple of Georges who were in
Someone might
Europe.
have made some mistakes.
Eh,
OBS.
OBS or George, one of the
OBS.
two.
Yeah, but yes, we needed to trim that and repost it.
Totally.
We could have left the botched one, but again, as a VOD, people will excuse it live, but as a VOD,
Yeah.
there's no excuse. So
Well, if I have to scrub through 5 minutes of
Right.
dead air
Exactly.
before getting to the actual start, for a VOD, that's not as acceptable. It's not as
well, the
passable.
beauty of live is that things happen, no one knows what's going to happen, and that's great. The downside to live is if something did go wrong, you don't want to leave that necessarily as the VOD because people
Yeah.
are not forgiving on VOD. When it's live, they're in on the joke.
Totally.
Hilarious.
Totally.
But VOD, no, you got to trim that up. So repurposing it by trimming it, reposting it is good. And oftentimes your VOD view numbers, because there's just more time, will be much larger than your live numbers. And so it's definitely important to repurpose it and not focus solely on live and making sure it can be reviewed.
Now, would you take those live videos and then share them again, or just let them sit for people
Yeah,
to find
no, I
them?
think you do. We usually
Yeah.
put them in blog posts. We occasionally send them out as reminders. Myself and the guys in support, if someone jumps on our live chat or something like that and says, hey, I have this question about this particular subject, it happens fairly often where we go, hey, we did a live show about that, however many episodes ago, and we send them the link.
Cool.
And they can check that out, and it just helps reinforce some of the subject matter. So Facebook and YouTube will both automatically save VOD. They're both pretty good at viewing VOD libraries.
Yep.
That's probably the one area where Twitch is the weakest. It's
Well, and they
not
make
good
them-
at VOD.
Facebook and YouTube also makes them more accessible at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
Because when they do that, they also re-encode it,
Yeah.
so you can get it at that lower resolution. So if you don't have as much bandwidth, you can now watch it. It's not super choppy.
Now, you had a note in here about Periscope, which I never use, so maybe you can tell me and explain to me a little bit about that.
Oof, I'm also not super
Okay.
big on Periscope. So from what I understand with Periscope is they are going towards that,
Okay.
right? But traditionally it's just been it's
Live.
there and
Just
then it's
live
gone.
and then it's gone.
And it's gone
Yeah.
forever. So you never see it again. And the challenge, previously when their early adopters were working with Periscope, was how to actually get the content there at a higher quality.
Okay.
Because Periscope was limited just to the app.
It being terrible.
Yeah. But again, this is something that we're not super experienced with. So if you have any comments or any knowledge you want to share
Yeah.
about Periscope or
Yeah,
you've
if you have
experienced Periscope,
Periscope creators,
share it down here, or is it down there?
Yeah,
Right here?
somewhere.
Somewhere
Yeah.
down there.
If you're a Periscope creator, jump in there.
Yeah.
Tell us why it's so good, because I haven't seen it. But no, but they have stuff apparently about saving it to your phone's camera roll and some stuff
Oh,
like
okay.
that. So there's some interesting features in there that maybe isn't automatic VOD, but at least gives you a backup that you
Gives
could
you an option.
post, which is good.
And you can recut it.
Yeah, so we talked about, Facebook or YouTube. If as the content creator, you can download it and trim it. That's good, and then you can go into your promotion afterwards.
Keep the conversation going.
Yes,
Yeah.
dead air.
Yeah,
Dead
that's
air is
good.
bad. Keeping it going. Yeah, making sure.
We got a laugh out of Lisa at least, so we know we did well on that one.
Making sure that the conversation is continuous,
Yeah.
right? Dead air is weird. Dead air is awkward. You might get viewers abandoning you.
Totally.
If at the same time you don't want.
How many did we lose when we did that gig?
Ooh, I don't know. I don't think it was long enough. If we'd done it for a few more minutes.
Yeah, a few more seconds. Well, and that was one of the first things you told me coming onto the live show, is that you will just keep going and going and going.
Yeah,
because
I'm a bit of a
you're-
freight train.
Yeah, you don't want to introduce that gap and then
Exactly.
have that moment where, okay, well, this is boring. I guess I'll
Right, and
I'll
I
check
have
something
watched
else
some
out.
live streams where that person turns to do something else, and you're sitting there like, what am I watching?
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
They're just sitting there staring. Like if I just sat here staring at the comments, and that doesn't really work, and it's just dead air. So
The most popular gamers on Twitch are the ones that give commentary,
Yes,
right? So they're not just
absolutely.
playing and kicking
yeah,
kicking around on. I'm gonna censor myself, but they're not just playing really
Right.
well. They're
It's the
also giving that
commentary.
commentary. And there's been, from what I understand, there's been some commentators that are now
Yep.
making a business just from being commentators.
Yeah, well,
right.
for
So they're
esports-
not even playing.
yeah. For
they're
esports,
just giving that commentary.
That's common.
Yeah.
Yeah. So but again, the importance there is engaging, even if not directly engaging with the audience. And again, I can see some more of the comments coming in there. Faithfulness just saying, I personally had to abandon Periscope. Too many trolls.
Were they forest trolls or mountain trolls?
I don't know, but either way, it sounds terrible.
It's actually the perfect word. I was going to say that earlier. Trolls fits so well
Yeah,
for the description of what you're talking about online.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But making sure that you keep the conversation going is important, and filling that space. So,
Totally.
so we talked about that. What was our last one?
So our last one is, again, something that we do every single week, and
Yep.
we do it normally with a hardware solution through our appliance, through our Pearl 2,
Yeah.
or you can do it online using StreamShark. So we simulcast. Not only are we
Right.
going to Facebook and YouTube, but we're actually doing that simultaneously from the same stream.
Right.
So where a few years ago, if we were going to stream on YouTube and we were going to stream on Facebook, we would literally have two cell phones. We had this
Yeah.
one rig where it was two cell phones, and one had YouTube and one on Facebook, and then even you could have another on Periscope below.
Yeah.
But now we have a hardware solution where it goes
Exactly.
through all of them.
So-
and what's the benefit of that?
Well, we've touched on this a couple times already. Broader audience, making sure that you're hitting multiple platforms so that you can cover a wider audience, because not everyone is in one place.
Totally.
And simulcasting is the best way to do that. There's a few ways of accomplishing simulcasting, like you said, from a hardware solution. That's going to cost you maybe slightly more expensive hardware, and definitely going to cost you more bandwidth at your particular site. Or doing it in the cloud with restreaming services like StreamShark or some of the other ones out there. StreamShark, as you guys will find out more next week when we talk about that, is a little more all-encompassing than just restreaming.
Yeah.
But it is one thing that they do. But Restream.io, Switchboard, we've talked to already and integrates directly with our Webcaster X2. These are platforms that can also restream. So what that does is it can save your local resources. You don't need as much bandwidth going up because you're only going up once.
Totally.
And maybe you can use a smaller encoder or simpler software like OBS. But in the cloud, that platform is doing that redistribution to multiple platforms.
And what does that mean too, right? Like we talk about the cloud, we talk about
Yeah.
everything's up in the air, but what folks don't understand is there's actually a physical server farm
Yeah.
that we're sending all this data to,
Yeah.
and they've invested in the technology. They have
Yeah.
all the CPUs, all the.
Well, I wouldn't go that
capacity
far
there.
anymore. The majority of these service providers now are basing it on Amazon AWS Cloud.
Oh, okay.
So Amazon is the one that
Yeah, so
owns the
they're the
infrastructure.
beast in the
Yeah,
background. that does
and
all
these
of this.
companies are just buying that server time and then using it. And the nice part about doing it is, honestly, some people look at that as being a negative. It really isn't. The beauty of Amazon is that you can scale your needs up and down at the flick of a switch.
Totally.
So you can, as a company, if you're starting out small and you don't need a lot, you can only occupy a very limited amount of time. But if you suddenly get an explosion of customers, you can scale up very quickly.
Totally.
Trying to own the hardware yourself, that's huge money and a lot of time.
Well, we're going to invest, another $25,000 in switches
Exactly,
and computers, and then the operators and the maintenance and the power to run everything.
And data center time, especially here in Canada, is very expensive. If you want to put a rack mount server in a data center like on Front Street in Toronto, is the biggest one in Canada, it's really expensive, and that's not practical for a lot of people. The cloud makes it very practical. These servers already live in locations where they are on the main internet pipe, so they don't have to worry about bandwidth, and it's lower cost that way.
And we use Backblaze for a lot of the backups here.
Yep.
So all the media that we produce and generate, everything gets backed up to Backblaze.
Yeah.
And they have a direct pipe to their own cloud servers that do all the processing, and we can do encoding and transcoding, and everything's just a straight fiber pipe.
Yeah.
And even physically they're close. And oftentimes these server locations are in safe places.
That's the other thing.
Right?
Is
So
that it's safe,
if you're in
it's
Ottawa,
reliable.
there could be a fire in the building. There could be an earthquake. There could be a tornado.
Exactly. Yeah.
A tornado could come back again.
Here, never.
And these server farms are in really safe spots.
Exactly.
I like the one that's in I think, is it in Siberia? And
There's
they
one in a
pull
bunker.
water up out of the Siberian Sea
Yeah,
for
yeah.
cooling.
Yeah.
It's very cool. There's a lot of James, actually very James Bondy looking kind of place. Yeah.
I think the other thing when you're going with multiple platforms and you're using a cloud-based system like a Streamshark, is that not only do they allow you to send it out to these other platforms, Facebook, YouTube, but they also just give you a simple player to embed. So maybe you want to just straight up embed it on your own website and not use Facebook or YouTube. You could do that instead or in addition to.
Can I put my own logo on there, or are you stuck with the Streamshark logo?
No, there's methods depending on the service plan you buy.
So kind of like a white paper for embedded browsers.
There's different ways of doing that, and obviously different platforms offer different services. But the nice part is that you can get it out there to as many places as possible. Maybe you're a blogger and you're known for your written blog content, but you want to start getting into live shows. You could use that and embed directly into your blog site to make sure that your normal readers and viewers who know where to find your content can get it easily. So there's a lot of strength in that simulcast.
Totally. And having different options when you're ingesting that kind of content is great. Yeah. Right? Sometimes you feel like reading an article. Sometimes you're feeling a little bit lazy. You want to watch someone else read the article to you.
And that's why we write the blogs. Often blogs go hand in hand with this show, where we use blog content as show material and vice versa.
Totally.
And so that can always be a great piece. But that gets through our list.
Yeah, the list is done.
You wanted to add into that? Oh, Lisa's going to be so mad. She wanted that list.
Lisa's on cleanup today, so it's okay.
So
there's
a
soft copy. Don't worry.
If you guys have any questions, throw them into chat. But probably the last tip is never forget to do the reminders for click the like button if you loved this content.
Click the little bell.
Subscribe,
thingy,
the bell thingy, follow, like on all the different
on the socials.
The stuff
and what is our handle?
I don't know.
At Epiphan?
It's Epiphan video pretty much everywhere. I honestly don't even know what our Twitter is because I don't even use Twitter. I'm pretty terrible at that. But Twitter's not a big one for this company.
We'll find that out for the next one.
Yeah. But definitely with YouTube and Facebook, it's Epiphan video basically everywhere.
And we are going to get our next show ready.
Yes.
So in the next couple of hours, we're going to have the event scheduled for next week, because we're hoping that's going to be a pretty good one, especially talking with Streamshark.
Yeah.
And getting them on board, and with it being Shark Week here, or Shark Month, Streamshark Month.
Yeah, we're using their platform to play around with. So anybody who is looking at this right now, if you're excited for next week's show, get your questions ready. Write them down, and we'll get ready to ask the guys at Streamshark those very critical questions you might have about how to do that stuff. So thanks for everyone for tuning in, watching.
Yeah, thank you for watching.
Thank you for jumping in chat.
We'll see you next week, or you'll see George next week.
Me?
Yeah, sorry, you're on next show. You're on next week's show.
All right. We'll see you next week. Thanks very much.
Bye. Thank you.